Welcome, welcome, my friends and family. Your cruise host, Jason, here for the last all-access pass of your Malt Shop Memories cruise. And I am joined by a comedic legend right here. You know him as the unknown comic. Mr. Murray Langston is here
Thank you
with
very
us.
much. Thank you very much. Well, look at this crowd. Where the hell's the crowd? I slept with more people than this last night. You're going to play some of my favorite music. Papa's got a brand new bag, right? Ain't too proud to bag. He ain't hefty, he's my baggie. All right, enough of that stuff.
Oh,
Anyway,
yeah.
this is the real me. I can't. So some of you guys are going to see me before I do my show tonight. So you got to close your eyes tonight, okay?
Yeah.
Good to see you.
You have another show tonight. Yeah,
I have another show tonight.
Your second
well,
show.
Thank you for inviting me on this thing, Jason.
Are you kidding?
Isn't Jason a great interviewer,
stop
too?
it,
Give him
stop
a round of applause.
Stop it.
I was kidding. You're not really
Yeah,
that good.
I'm well aware.
No.
Jerry told
but
me
you
every
look
day.
good. You carry. No, I love Jason more than it's normal for a guy to love another guy.
Those cruises are out there, too. Let's not kid ourselves. Before we go too far down the path of today and current, take us back a little bit. Let's go to early days of Murray.
Early days.
Early
God, you know,
days.
it's funny because I think about it sometimes. I wrote a book called Journey Through the Unknown, which, details so much of the fun life I've had, because I've had a great life. My first job in show business, remember Rhoda Martin's Laugh-In?
Yeah.
That was my first thing. I did an impression of a fork on that show. It's absolutely true. And I was actually a computer operator in those days. I was like 22, 23 years old. I'm 59 right now, by the way. No, I would be 79, but I was sick for 20 years. So
he had COVID before it was popular. You understand?
Yeah. No, it's true. I am 79. I can't believe I'm getting up there. But I still feel like a puppy. I do. I can't believe I still have tons of energy and loving my life. But yes, so in my early years, when I first came to L.A., I was born in Canada. Anybody, other Canadians here?
My wife?
No.
Yeah.
Is she Canadian?
Yeah.
You're kidding.
I stole one.
Brittany, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I was born in Canada, and I was enamored with Jerry Lewis, like a lot of comics were when I was a kid, of watching him in the movies. I said, man, I want to do that. Who knows where that came from? But I said I want to do that, but I didn't know how to come to Hollywood. So when I was 17, I joined the Canadian Army first, because I was getting little troubles at the time. And then I said, well, I'll cross the border and join the military in the States. So I crossed the border and joined the Navy. So I was in from 62 to 66, long time ago.
Thank you for your service.
Oh, you're welcome. I was in yes, I've been in the Army, in the Navy, and in the Girl Scouts for 2 weeks, yeah. That was a hard physical to pass, I'll tell you. But I broke a nail twice, but it was all worth it.
You got there in the end.
But anyway, so yeah, across the border, I actually spent 4 years on an aircraft carrier called the USS Shangri-La, and but that was my direction to get to Hollywood. And at the time, it's funny because in '62, everybody was going to Canada because they.
I was going to say that's the reverse.
And I came the opposite way, and someone said you should put a bag over your head, But I did. I spent my 4 years in the military, and then I ended up going to Hollywood finally. And I wanted to get into show business, trying to figure it out. And it took me a few years, but finally, Rhoda Martin's Laugh-In was on, and I was working in this computer department. And Tiny Tim made it big. Remember Tiny Tim? So I said,
through the tulips.
I said, well, if this guy can make it,
Anybody can
maybe
make it.
I could have a shot at it. So I was so ignorant in the business, and I called up NBC where Laugh-In was shot, and I asked to speak to the producer of Laugh-In, who was a guy named George Slaughter, who's still around, and he got on the phone for some reason. You're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to go through. And he
Talk
said,
to my people.
Yeah, I said, yeah, I'd like to get on Laugh-In, being this ignorant kid. And he said, oh, really? What do you do? And I said, well, I've been working on this impression of a fork. And he said, oh, really? He says, why don't you come down tomorrow at 9? Absolutely true story. So, and I went down, and they brought me into this writer's room, and they said, go ahead, kid, let's see your impression.
Let's see your fork.
I was like 90 pounds at that time, and I went, right here, here's my impression of a fork. And now a tube of toothpaste. And you know, the writers in the
It was a
room-
slow week, so they took it.
was
Yeah,
Well, actually, they didn't say. They said thanks very much for coming in. They didn't say a word.
Yeah.
And then,
We'll call you.
like 3 days later, I got a call saying, report to makeup at 1 o'clock. You're going to be shooting those things, and Rona Martin's going to introduce you. And it's actually on YouTube now. I never saw it. Somebody sent it to me on YouTube of Rona Martin introducing me doing
As a fork.
on Laughing. And then, so anyway, luckily that led to a couple of years later. The same writer, Chris Beard was a writer. He ended up producing a series with Sonny and Cher. Anybody remember the Sonny and Cher show?
Oh, yeah.
Would you believe I was on every one of those?
For a long time. You did a lot of
I was a regular
episodes.
on Sonny and Cher show for 4.5 years.
300 episodes or something. I mean, you were on a lot of
No,
episodes.
not that. Well, it was 20
3,000.
20, no, it
400,000.
was 2 million.
Yeah.
No, it was,
Don't sell yourself short.
no, it's like, I think 20 episodes a
Yeah.
year then. So I
Yeah.
did about 80, 90 episodes. I was a regular. There was Terry Garr, remember her?
Yeah.
She was the female regular on the show, and Peter Cullen, Ted Ziegler, and Freeman King, who was my black buddy. That we used to be a comedy team called Freeman and Murray, and so that's how we got on the show. We were actually opening for Red Fox
Yeah.
at a little club on
Yeah.
La Cienega when his agent saw us and said, they're doing auditions for the Sonny and Cher show. And we went down, and it's crazy because we were doing these really nasty sketches because Red Fox expected it from a.
Yeah, I was going to say.
So we went into
required.
producers, same thing. We auditioned for them, me and Freeman doing these nasty sketches, and they didn't laugh at all. And then Chris Beard looked at me and he said, "Were you the fork on Laughing?" Absolutely true. And I said, yeah. And he said, oh, I sound to recognize you.
You've got real talent.
Well, you know, it's funny because after the show, you know, I wanted to be I used to walk down the street like this after this, you know, but nobody ever recognized me. But anyway, so
When they said get the fork out of the way, you thought they meant the guy who played the fork. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the following week, I did a knife and stabbed myself with myself. But anyway, but the same thing as Laughing. Didn't you hear? They said thanks very much,
Sure.
and we left. A week later,
Checks in the mail. Yeah.
we get a call. No, we get a call saying you got the show, and you can imagine.
That's
I'm
amazing.
still,
Yeah.
At that time, I was selling shoes, by the way, but it was during the miniskirt craze, so it wasn't bad. I was, yes.
They were
It's
men's
true.
shoes, but who cares? Yeah.
So I ended up going to the Sonny and Cher show, and over the course of the years, I did during that time. I was a comedy actor, and I must have did like 500-600 TV shows.
Yeah.
I did a series with Sonny and Cher. I did a series with Lola Falana. I did a series with Bobby Vinton. Series with Wolfman Jack.
Yeah.
Kid series with the Hudson Brothers.
Yeah.
I did a series with I loved him, Rod Hull and Emu. You remember the Emu bird? Anybody? Well, a few people, yeah. Anyway, but it was great. So I worked a lot as an actor, and then one day I was around 30 now, and I said I'd like to own a nightclub. So I bought a nightclub restaurant. And
Showbiz. Was it Showbiz?
Showbiz. Yeah, it was actually a lesbian bar before I bought it, and it was a tough place. They had a pool table there with no balls, but true. But I actually bought this nightclub, and I had it for 2 years. I lost my butt in it. You know, the money I'd made from the Sunny, all these TV shows. But it was an interesting place, true. People from my nightclub called Showbiz was in North Hollywood. People that came from there were David Letterman.
Yeah.
Used to work in my club all the time. Michael Keaton was his name was Michael Douglas back then, and he used to work my club all the time. Well, Shirley Hemphill, Deborah Winger was one of my waitresses.
Freddie Prinze.
Freddie Prinze used to hang out there, and Kitty Bruce, who I got to know was his girlfriend at that time. Kitty Bruce, Lenny Bruce's daughter. You remember Lenny Bruce? You guys? Yeah. Well, yeah. Kitty, I ended up. Freddie dropped her, and then I ended up dating her, so it was fun. But you know,
Thanks, Freddie.
Thanks to Kitty, that's the only time I've been to the Academy Awards because the movie Lenny with Dustin Hoffman was a big Academy Award nominee. So I went with Kitty to the Academy Awards, so it was very exciting. Yeah. But we're
cool.
still friends, believe it or not, years later, Kitty, Bruce, and I.
That's awesome.
Yes, it is.
So showbiz lasted about 2 years. Well, the restaurant.
Oh, the restaurant. Oh, so that's what happened. So I lost everything in the restaurant, and then,
Any of you own cats? Yeah, if you own cats, you understand what I'm doing right now, for the record.
But yeah, so I lost everything in my restaurant. I was penniless again, broke, because I've been broke many times. As most people know, show business is definitely a roller coaster ride. But then this show called The Gong Show came on the air, and they had already been on for like 6 months, and I heard about it. And if you're in the union, they had to pay you to do it. So a lot of the people who were struggling, who were in the union, would make up stuff to get on the Gong Show because it was like $150 or something like that. And I heard about that, and I needed $150. So I actually, I had known the talent coordinator, a woman named Ruth Goldberg, because I'd done a few dating games prior to that. Because if anybody knows Chuck Barris, he also did Dating Game, Newlywed Game, and the Gong Show. So anyway, I asked if I called her and asked her if I could be on the show because I needed that money. And she said, well, they had a thing they called curtain closers, where they would close the curtain on somebody. So she said, why don't we try you with that? So I went down. I was all excited, but I didn't want any of my friends to see me on the Gong Show because I'd done like 500 TV shows by then. So I was embarrassed. So I said, well, that's when I came up. I'll put a bag over my head, tell a couple of jokes, make a quick $150. So what happened is I put this thing in my mind. I never did stand-up before in my life, too. I was just and actually, I came out, and they introduced me, and I went to Chuck, and I said, hey, Chucky, you and your wife ever make love in a shower? And he said, no. And I said, well, you should. She loves it. And that was actually the first joke I told on the Gong Show. And Chuck loved it. He came backstage. He said, Murray, well, he didn't know my name then, but he said, hey, you. He said,
that guy in the bag. Yeah.
He said, with the bag over here, hey, can you do that again? See, the clever thing about Chuck Barris is he was such a smart man. He figured he was, insulting a lot of the acts.
Yeah.
Right. So he figured me insulting him gave him a certain amount of vulnerability.
Yep.
So he said, can you do it again? So I ended up doing 150 Gong shows. And you figure at 150 a piece, that's over $300 right there.
Yeah. Canadian.
Canadian.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. But I ended up doing a lot of Gong shows, and next thing I knew, it was after about 50 or 60 Gong shows, I got a call from Las Vegas from a guy named Jack Aglash and asked me if I would work in the lounge there. And again, I had no act because I didn't really do stand-up, so at that time, I hired a band, and I called them the Brown Baggers. And I hired 2 girls to open up a dancing number and called them the Baguettes. I mean, I put a show together. And they offered me, serious, this is back in the day, they offered me $5,000 a week. I'd never heard of that kind of money to do this lounge thing. But the problem was, by the time I put a show together, the show was costing me $7,000 a week. I had to pay their hotels.
We're noticing a trend here with you, Murray. Yeah,
but it was an amazing time. So I spent years working in the lounge at the Sahara. I worked the Sahara, Reno, and Vegas, and Tahoe. And I did a circle, and that's where I sort of developed the unknown comic. And as I got sort of decent, I got rid of all the people because I needed some money. At some point.
Why spend $7,000 when you can spend $50 and collect the rest?
So, but anyway,
as you know, sir, I do like to open up to the audience as we move along, and so when one of these questions fits into your story, we'll slip it in.
Okay.
Lonnie from Fairfield, why did you choose a bag instead of a mask or a costume? Well, he was broke. That's pretty much what it was.
Well, actually, the truth is, I had a bad complexion, and it was cheaper than Clearasil, okay? No, that's not a good joke. Okay. Why did I play? No, I don't know why. It just popped into my head at some point. I was trying to, like I said, I didn't want to be recognized on the Gong Show, and somehow that idea. I did eventually try it with a plastic bag, but I kept blacking out. Then I tried a vacuum cleaner bag, but that sucked. But okay.
Did you have any, this is a ridiculously, somewhat rhetorical question. When you put a paper bag on your head and it becomes a signature deal, it's probably pretty hard to see that going. Like in that moment, you put that bag on, you couldn't have been like, oh, this is going to be it. This is going to be.
Even to this day, I'm amazed that people remember that character. What do you mean we are too? No. You know, it was a character that hit for a bunch of years, and I actually revealed it on a show called Real People.
That was my next question. When did you finally take the bag off? And become Murray?
Yeah. Well, that was Real People with Skip Stevenson and a guy named, I think it was John Barber. Yeah, a bunch of people. But I revealed that show, and then I went into other directions for years. I did some movies. I produced a movie called Up Your Alley about homeless people, wrote it, and Linda Blair was in it. Yeah, I did a few movies with Linda
Jim
Blair.
Carrey, right? You worked with Jim Carrey when he was a kid.
Jim Carrey, he did his first TV show with me. Yeah, it's on video too. It was a show for Playboy Channel. He was like 17 or 18. And he was so talented back then, you just knew. It was a show called The Sex and Violence Family Hour, believe it or not.
The Aristocrats.
It was Jim Carrey's first TV series, and we did a bunch of episodes together for the Playboy Channel. And then the next thing, he just like shot up like a bullet, and I ended up in a small town, Tehachapi. It just didn't seem fair.
And he never returned the favor. Damn that Jim Carrey.
No. Every time I run into him, he's been a sweetheart. Yeah, it's just so many people that I'm amazed that when I started out that became huge. I mean, David Spade used to open for me. Harry Anderson used to open for me.
Yeah.
So, Howie Mandel all these guys used to open for me back in the day when I was sort of clicking. Yeah, so many people that became huge stars, and I'm stuck here on this cruise ship. Son of a bitch.
That's why we hired him. He's so affordable.
No. Ain't that the truth?
We do obviously love.
I still owe you some change.
Yeah,
don't I?
Yeah. That $5's not going to clear. It is. Comedians obviously come from many different generations. We all have comedians, our favorites from years and past or current. And it is interesting that out of the comedians, really truly in the 60s and so on, there aren't a lot that are still doing stand-up. There aren't a lot that still.
They're dead, Jason.
Yeah,
they're.
I was trying to be polite about it.
Yeah. But I'm still around. No,
you're still here.
You know, the generation that I knew that I love, the Joan Rivers, the Rodney Dangerfield, the Rip Taylors. I mean, those all guys I got to know really well over the course of those years. Yeah, but it's a whole new brand of comedy, and it's strange because I don't do this very often. It's every year or two do I get up and do stand-up. So it's still new to me in a way because I'm trying to remember everything, but. I did do a show to a bunch of young people in L.A. about a year ago at a Ventura Comedy Club, and they're all young, and I just thought, I'm just going to die, because it's a different generation.
Yeah.
But no, they still laughed at it, so that's crazy.
Well, funny's funny.
I guess so.
Funny's funny.
I feel funny. I feel silly, and that feels good.
Most comedians, whether you're reading their autobiography or book or watching an interview with them, will say that you kind of don't know who you are as a comedian until you've bombed on stage. That you have to go out and fall really flat to start to realize your parameters as a comedian and where you fit. Because not every style of comedy works for every comedian. Some do the very slapstick, some do very straight-laced and straight-faced. And what was your experience the first time where you realized who exactly you were as a comedian?
Yeah, I don't know. No, it's interesting because even no matter how big you get, I remember doing a show with Bob Hope, and he was on a show called The Everyday Show, which I did for a year, and he was a guest on it. Interestingly enough, I got to meet Bob Hope's show when I was on that aircraft carrier because he brought his show
the USO
on
show.
that USO show, and I told him I wanted to be in the business at that time, and years later, I got to work with him on this show called The Everyday Show.
That's great.
Yeah, it was really cool. But he had just come from doing some show, and he was like all upset because he said, I bombed on my ass. And you go, Bob Hope? Bomb? But, it doesn't matter how big you get. Sometimes if there's so many variables, you got to have good lighting, good sound, good things, a sober audience. I've been in as long. I've had chairs thrown at me. I've had some nightclubs. You have a rough time, but You know, so don't anybody do that. Take that tonight if you're gonna.
No throwing of
there.
these chairs, please.
Get rid of the ashtray.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's Jerry Seinfeld put out a documentary called Comic, based on his book, basically. And at the height of his career, and I'm sure you're familiar, if you're not, at the height of his career, he basically scrapped his entire set. It's at the height of Seinfeld when he's getting paid ridiculous money to go out and do these 90-minute sets. And it's the same 90 minutes, right? A lot of comics have, you know, a tight set, as it's called. And he had this really tight 90 that was just flawless. He threw the whole thing out and started back from zero. And it's fascinating if you're ever in the mood for it. And it shows him going to nightclubs, small nightclubs, just showing up and saying, hey, do you mind? This is at the height of Seinfeld. Showing up and saying, hey, can I just get up and do 5 minutes? And he would go up and he would try material. And you watch Jerry Seinfeld at his peak go out and get booed in these little nightclubs and things. And I say that to your point about learning who you are as a comedian. And he had to relearn because he felt too complacent. He felt it was too easy for him at that point. So he rewrote the whole thing and started from scratch.
I'm sorry, Jerry who?
Yeah, exactly. Now we never heard of him again.
Seinfeld.
Yeah, he disappeared.
No. Well, you know, Steve Martin.
Steve Martin?
You remember the
Oh,
day?
my gosh.
He became so popular that he couldn't work because you spend 20 years developing an act. And he would go up there, and they would repeat all of his punchlines, and he would be basically bombing because his whole act was so well known.
Because the opening act already
and that's
did
why he said he gave up and just went into acting at that point. Yeah, Steve Martin. He was actually one of the writers on the Sonny and Cher show.
Oh, was he really?
Yes.
I did not know
I
that.
did a bunch of sketches with him back in those days
Another
because they
brilliant
used him
mind.
as a part-time sketch artist.
Another brilliant mind.
Yeah, he was brilliant. Yeah.
Well, actually, kind of what
But
we're talking about.
I'm a high school graduate.
Did you?
14 years I went to high school, so I'm no dummy, okay? And I always got A's. Hey, wake up. Hey, sit down. Hey, shut up. Okay. Anyway.
Barry comes to us from Miami. Barry says, first, always been a big fan. In your long and illustrious career, what was your strangest performance?
I think the one right now is probably strangest. Barry, where are you, Barry?
Barry, right?
Barry, yeah. See, the way you're dressing me with your eyes, aren't you?
Yeah.
Or undressing. No, thank you, Barry. Appreciate that. Okay.
Do you have some memories of some performances, whether it's locations or crowds or whatever, that still stick out to you after all the years?
Well, you know, the truth is that the most exciting moment for me in when I did doing stand-up, when I was at the Sahara, I idolized Jerry Lewis, as I mentioned. And one night, I was in the lounge, and Jerry was coming into the main room. And I was like, holy mackerel, he's coming in the main room. Then somebody told me he's going to come down to see my act. And I was freaking out that Jerry Lewis was going to come to see me do my show. And so I remember I came on with the bag on, and I could see through the bag, and I'm looking. They had a booth for him in the back. And I'm looking, he's not there. And about 3 minutes into my show, I'm jumping around, and I see him and his entourage sit there. And I just went crazy. I mean, I just did the best show I could do. And I actually got a standing ovation that night, which I'll probably get tonight. Anyway.
It's commonplace now.
I got to, and so I remember this distinctly. I had a keyboard player, like I said. I had a band that worked with me back then because I had to, build up that act. And so I had a camera I kept backstage. So when at the end of the show, Jerry Lewis stood up, and I went over and I introduced Jerry Lewis. They said, "Can I get a picture? Can I please get a picture?" And he said, "Yeah." So I said, "Steve, get the camera." So he brought the camera, and I handed the camera to Jerry, and I put my arm around this piano player. And he went, "Oh," and he took a picture. And I swear I did that, and I swore the next night he was doing that in his act.
Same bit, yeah.
He was doing it in his act, that son of a... But anyway. But I ended up getting to know him personally because he guested every year in the Sonny and Cher show, and I actually did his telethon where he surprised me. I came out and he had the entire audience with bags over their heads, I ended up getting to know him fairly well.
That's fantastic. That's got to be pretty cool for someone that you look up to like that when you get to know him.
The whole thing has been. I mean, like I said, I've partied all night with Elvis Presley. How many people can say that? Yeah, I've spent Christmas Eve alone at the house with Lucille Ball. How many had her house spent? Because I used to date Lucy Arnaz, Lucy's daughter. So seriously, I spent Christmas Eve with Lucille Ball. I got threatened by Frank Sinatra on the phone. Call me personally. and threatened to have my legs broken. So I mean,
So casual about it.
no, this is a true story. The Franks. Oh, all right. So
You got to tell it now.
Okay, so-
the old man doesn't call everybody with a
no,
threat. So.
no, he doesn't. Okay, I did a show called Make Me Laugh. I don't know, it's where you make people laugh, and you come out, and it was a funny show, and so
Great premise.
But I never did Sinatra jokes in my act. Basically, we go back a couple of years. I get a call, and I have a friend named Joe Battaglia. And so I get a phone call. I'm shaving, and I answer the phone, and I hear it's this gruff voice. Is this Murray Langston? I go, yeah, and I think it's Joe. He says, hey, this is Frank Sinatra. And he starts using curse words. You son of a bitch. You ever mention my name on effing TV? I'll break your face. And then he's cursing me out. Now I'm laughing because I think I say, yeah, Joe. He said, no, I'm telling you, this is Frank Sinatra, and he's cursing me out. And I'm going, yeah. And I said, yeah. And we're arguing back and forth. Finally, I said, all right, sing my way, asshole, okay? And he said, and he called me a bunch of choice words and slammed the phone on me, right? So I'm laughing and I'm shaving again, and the phone rings again. And I pick it up, and I think I hear this voice. Is this Murray Langston? And I say, yeah. He said, this is Milton Berle. And I had just worked with him on that same show every day, and of course I recognized.
Absolute legend.
He says, "I guess you didn't think you were talking to Sinatra, do you?" And I went, so I'm going, no. I said, no, no, it couldn't be. He says, yeah, that was Frank. He says, and he apologized. He says, he's a little crazy, but he saw you doing some joke on TV and he got mad. And I said, wait a minute, I don't do Sinatra jokes. And then he mentioned the punchline, and I went, oh, and it was like 2 years. I read a bunch of jokes out of a newspaper, and the joke was Sinatra is going to open up a halfway house for girls who don't go all the way. It's a simple little joke, but he got mad, and so anyway.
So how long did it take you to regain the feeling in your legs?
Well,
after?
It was great. So anyway, I called the producer of the show of Make Me Laugh, and I said, you'll never guess who just called me. I figured I should maybe have him edited out of future shows. So I said, you'll never guess who just called me. And he says, Frank Sinatra. I said, how did you know? He said, where do you think you got your phone number? I said, what? What? Son of a bitch. So he said, I didn't want him breaking my legs,
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. Let me give you the number of that guy.
Exactly.
Yeah, let me pass you on.
But that story went around, and I mean, it was a little bit nerve-wracking because he did.
He broke.
Hurt a few people. Well, Shecky Green used to tell the story how Sinatra saved his life. He said 5 guys were kicking the crap out of him, and Sinatra said, "Okay, that's enough." That's a true story. That really did happen too.
The old man.
Anyway, so that's my Sinatra story. Yeah.
I love the Sinatra stories.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Jeff comes to us from New York City, and you kind of answered this, but not quite all the way. How did you actually get the name Unknown Comic?
It was written on my underwear one day. I just said right next to Hanes.
Yeah.
No, again, it just came with the package. When I was trying to think of an idea to get that $150 on the Gong Show, I came up with the bag over the head, and I figured, well, I'll call him the Unknown Comic, and the son of a gun, the next thing you knew,
there it is.
It clicked for a while. Anyway, it was a pleasant surprise because I never really expected that. But I always figured, if it wasn't that, I'd have come up with something else.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Have you ever had an embarrassing moment or something go very wrong during a show or on stage?
Yeah, with Jerry Van Dyke. Jerry Van Dyke became very good friends of mine too, because I loved him. We worked lounges together, and when he became really famous on Coach, we were going to do the Laughlin together. Well, I don't know if I can say. Can you get risque on this show?
Looks like we're all adults.
Okay. So anyway, I'm opening for Jerry Van Dyke at the Riverside, and and he's a big star on Coach now. So I go backstage, and I'm going to do so I'm going to do the introduction too. So I'm going as the lights go down. I go, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Riverside Hotel, starring Jerry Van Dyke, and now your act from the Unknown Comic. And I'm getting ready to introduce myself, which I've done in the past. And just as I say the Unknown Comic, I look around, and my bag's not here. I'm looking. And I left it in my room, and Jerry's standing next to me. He said, "What?" I said, "I forgot my bag." I said, "Hold it." And I gave Jerry the mic, and he said, "Oh, hold on, ladies and gentlemen, just 1 minute. We'll be right back to you." And I run up the stairs, ran my ass off up to the room. I run back down, and so Jerry says, "What are you crazy? Forgot your bag? That's like a hooker saying, I forgot my pussy." You know.
I think the mic is cutting out. Matt, you might want to check the mic. I think we're losing reception.
Absolutely. True
and now
story.
you just gave everyone in the room a line they'll use at some point here in the near future. Forgot your car keys.
But that's probably and I ran on stage out of breath, and anyway, that's probably my most embarrassing thing.
Last question we have from the audience. Okay. Richard from Naples, Florida.
Okay, hi, Dick.
Who are...
No offense. Yeah.
Who are you really? As a federal agent, I have a need to know.
You're talking about Chuck Barris, right? Are you talking about Chuck Barris? Was he really an agent and all that stuff? Yeah, you mean the movie Confessions? No, the truth, because Chuck told me, he said, what happened with that is he said he started writing his bio because he had quite a bio, but he thought it would be boring. So he says he decided to write this side story about a killer, went out and killed people as an agent, but it wasn't true. He obviously so smart. He wrote that side story and blended it with his real life, and it became a movie, and it made him billions of dollars, like he was used to making. So yeah, he was a smart man, but yeah. Yeah.
I want to move out of show business for a brief moment before we let you go. You mentioned backstage, and forgive me if you can dodge this, you just had a grandbaby.
I became a grandfather. That's right. My other daughter, Maya, just had a baby a few months ago, and I told her, I'm only 79. I'm too young to be a grandfather. So I'm trying to have her put him up for adoption, but she won't do that. Yeah. No, it's great. I finally had a little boy named Rhett, and so it's it's a whole new thing for me, and I love that little kid, and I got two daughters.
I was just gonna say,
Mary, say hi, Mary. Everybody. That's my other daughter, Mary.
Hi, Mary. Hi, sweetheart.
Yeah, I'm a very lucky guy or woman, depends what I wear, but we don't need to go there.
You can identify as whatever you want nowadays.
That's right. Yes. Yeah.
You are a family man, and that's something that I love about you is that you've brought Mary on multiple cruises. Yeah. We've had Mary in the Gong Show with us before, and she was in the costume contest here on Malt Shop just the other night, and she's just a fabulous young lady, and
she gets that from me.
Well, yeah, clearly. It's you. I applaud you. I think you're a fantastic father, and I think that your adoration of your girls is unique.
love being a dad to both of my daughters. It's been a pleasure. That's been I retired like 20 years ago, and then about a month ago I realized nobody knew I retired. So I said, I'll come back and try it again. Okay, one more time.
Your career was skyrocketing, and no one had a clue.
No, I never really cared about becoming hugely famous. I've just had such a fun ride. Yeah. It's all been a blast for me, and it continues to be a blast for me, no matter what I do. I'm just, I'm 79. I haven't been sick in 45 years. I just don't get sick. What is up with that? So yeah.
People in the airport, don't you knock on something there? I got that.
No, I don't. I just don't. I'm as healthy as can be, and loving life, and to
That's
me, it's all about, as long as me and my kids are healthy, everything else is BS. Because that's all that matters is your health. So
well said.
I try to keep in touch with the reality of life, which stay healthy and stay happy and stay silly.
That probably helps with the healthy and the happy.
It helps a lot, yeah.
And you're here tonight on the stage. Are you at the 745?
I'm 745 here tonight on the
745
stage.
right here. So if you'd like to come back and join us, please do. Do me a favor for do me a favor and help me applaud this man for taking his time to come down and say hello.
Thanks,
Mr.
guys.
Murray Langston, a.k.a. the Unknown Comic. Thanks for coming out, everybody. Have a great afternoon.